Hi, I'm Rick Lobdell. Welcome to another episode of Concrete Mystique, the podcast. This show is brought to you by Epoxy Depot. Go to epoxydepotusa.com and check out all their great products. Today on the show, we have Dano the Dangerous One. Welcome to another episode of Concrete Mystique, the podcast. Today, I'm here with Daniel Howell. I say that right. Is it Daniel or Dano?
My friends call me Dano or Rick, so feel free.
Dano. Okay. I was always wondering that when after the show the other week, I was like, it said Daniel everywhere except for when they were talking to you. And I was very confused about that the entire time, which is fine, but
do you want to hear the story of
Go
Daniel?
right ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm 17 years old. Me and my buddies were up in Dowagiac, Michigan for the weekend, a little R&R. We were headed home and I was driving my mother's 19-something Saturn at the time, and we're going down a dirt road, and we hit a bump. I was going a little fast, and hit a bump, and the accelerator wedged down. Long story short, the car flipped. I get back home and console with my mother, tell her everything that happened, and then I run over to see my friend that was in the car with me to make sure he was still okay. And I walk in the door, and his dad just looks at me, he goes, "Dangerous Dano," back again. And it stuck, man, and it's been with me ever since.
So that's where the Dangerous One comes from, too?
That's where the Dangerous One comes from, too. I named my company about it. I have a really funny jokes that me and my brother share. He's like, "You're not dangerous at all, dude." I'm like, "Oh, I'm dangerous, dude. I only stop for 2 seconds at the stop sign, and then I go."
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff, though. Yeah.
Like I even stop at all. Come on now. It's a rolling stop.
Yeah. We call it a Chicago stop.
My buddy got pulled over for a rolling stop. Not only was he doing a rolling stop, but he was literally looking at his phone. And I'm just sitting there going, "Hey, moron, you look at the phone's got to be down here. You don't look at the phone in the air for the cop to actually see that you're looking at your phone and texting with someone." I mean, come on, we all work. We all have to look at our phones while we're driving. It's how we keep our businesses running.
True that.
I was like, what were you thinking?
I sometimes look up from it and like, did I just do that this whole drive? Like, how did I get here?
Your subconscious just drives for you.
Oh, yeah, it does, man. I'm on autopilot.
It was great, like when COVID happened, that because we were considered essential. So there's no one on the road. Like, why would you stop at a red light? There's nobody there. Yeah. Who cares? And then when it came back, it was really weird for me to start going, wait, I actually have to stop? Like, it took me a while. It took me a good 6 months to kind of get used to people on the road with me because I had it to myself all the time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was the same in Colorado. I was a painting contractor at the time as well. So we were still painting houses. We had to mask up and glove up and spray everything down when we left, but kept us working, so I had no complaints there. But the traffic was beautiful, man.
Oh, I wish I could have that traffic back, especially in Nashville. It's terrible here.
Without the COVID, we can skip the COVID. Just give me the traffic.
The no traffic. With my kids out of school, I had to take my kids to every single job site through that whole year. And
so you're also okay with child labor?
Okay, so that's kind of the point, but not really, because I would put them. I had in my truck at all times, like a little table, a card table and 2 chairs, and I would find a shadow because it was 100 degrees in the summer.
Oh yeah.
So I'd find a shadow for them to be underneath in a tree and put the table up and the 2 chairs, and they would go to town, and I was using our phones for Wi-Fi, and they could play Minecraft all they wanted to. But I did have one project where I was doing an ashlar pattern, and I have a specific technique to my ashlar pattern. And a lot of times, you never know with your employees which one is going to be understanding the math or not. Some of them understand it right away. Some of them never get it at all. But I had this one employee that had been working with me for 3 years. And yes, if I left him for 2 days, he'd be able to draw it. But he couldn't figure it out in like 5 minutes, like I need him to. And so my son at the time was 12, and I brought him over because he's really good at math. He's like one of the top in the state for math, really, or he was right before that time. And so I brought him over, and I was like, "This is the design. This is how I'm laying it out. Can you help me out?" And he watched me for 5 minutes, and then he went one way around the pole, and I went the other way around the pole, and he nailed it.
Nice.
And I told him afterward, I was like, "Yeah, these guys have been working with me 3 years and they still don't quite get it. And he's like, what? And he started making fun of them like you wouldn't believe. I'm like, dude, calm down. Dude, calm down. Like, you don't need to rub it in. But, you know, and he was just like, I can't, just literally in front of them, I can't believe you didn't understand that. That was easy. I'm like, oh, shut up. Shut up. I should never have said that.
The boss's kid's always the worst.
So tell me about your business then. You know, like you said, you were doing painting before, and now you're in decorative concrete. How was that transition?
Yeah, so I started out in Chicago when I was 16 years old as a painter. I worked for various companies for about 5-6 years, and then I looked at my boss one day and I was like, I can do this. So I took my last paycheck from that job, bought my incorporation papers and business license, and then started off on a long career of painting interior, exterior, residential, and commercial projects in and around the Chicagoland area. We had done epoxy in that time, but it was very crude at the time. Huge grinder machines, product that you definitely had to wear the respirator for because it was so strong. And then it kind of faded away. And then I would say right around the time of COVID, the floor started, there was more opportunities. So I started getting into it, and I actually ended up retiring from painting and moving on to epoxy floors full time. And that's what I do now. I do metallic, I do flake. I haven't really had the opportunity to do too much of that fun, fancy overlay stuff. But after being in the competition and watching how the guys do it, pretty confident I'll be having some of those coming within the next year. Also do a lot of, my specialty is large facility production. Like I'll go into a 50,000 square foot facility. We're prepped, we're coated, we're top coated within 2 weeks, and we're out of there, man. That's what I specialize in mostly. What I like mostly is the metallics. I love metallic floors, the way it flows, the way you can lay it out. So besides my business, I also consult for a national coatings firm, and I'm the director of installation and education for the whole shot. I teach people how to do the epoxy floors. I teach people how to do the metallics. Our product is a green product, so it's got a special place for me because I knew a lot of guys when I was a painter, and I know a lot of guys now that they have allergies to this epoxy and stuff like that. So having a green product that's not going to harm you, you could actually eat this stuff. Nobody wants to because it tastes like shit, but you could actually eat it. So that's pretty much what I do now, man. And I do the podcast, have a variety show, kind of like an SNL and Living Color deal. I do stand-up comedy. First time for that was pretty good. I did 2 minutes. I got some laughs, got some good feedback. So I'm going to continue that. And then I also am a certified bounty hunter out here in Colorado.
You knew I was going to bring that up.
Unlike most of my guys from the competition, man, I'm a little bit on the different side. I feel everybody's story, and I heard all their stories, and it's amazing what they've all accomplished, right? Everybody comes from such different places, but we're all here to compete on this floor, and I really found some camaraderie and value in that.
That's awesome,
I loved it, man.
So you enjoyed the competition?
I really enjoyed it. I had signed up for it through their email site, and I guess their server had some issues or something. I submitted all my stuff. I never heard back. And then I was talking to Andrew, and he said he was going. I was like, yeah, man, I signed up and never heard anything. So all of a sudden, I don't know who he talked to or whatnot, but he's like, hey, you're in. You're going to be on my team. I was like, that's awesome, man.
Nice.
I've never worked with Andrew. I took Andrew's metallic epoxy class years ago, and it was in lieu of a job that I had in Colorado at this dispensary. It was about 5,000 square foot of floor metallic coated. So I went and took Andrew's class. It was an awesome class. He showed us how the flow works, showed us how to mix it, products to use. Just a great class all around. And I think I said it in my intro video. I bought $12,000 worth of epoxy, and I went back to Colorado, and I dropped one sweet-ass floor in that dispensary. And I've kind of been known for that out here from that one job.
Of course.
Led me into other opportunities.
It only takes one job to create that credibility. It really does.
Yeah.
You just got to
And
do one job correctly.
People can still go in there today. It's been 4 years. That floor is still solid, not a blemish in it. And
I
they
did
keep it clean.
One of the ways that the industry found out about me was Concrete Decor magazine they had their Concrete Decor show, and it was coming to Nashville. And they came here and did like a pre-meeting with the area to let people know that what was going on and the classes they were doing and how we could get involved, not just be part of the show or be at the show, but maybe get involved with behind the scenes if we wanted to and stuff like that. So I went right away and introduced myself to Bent, the owner of Concrete Decor, and a couple weeks later he called me and was like, "Hey, I got this project to do downtown. Would you be interested in helping out?" And I was like, "Sure, I got 3 questions for you." He goes, "Okay, okay." I said, "Question number 1, why me?" And he was like, "Well, I went onto your website and I saw that you could do some pretty cool stuff. And I saw this like hummingbird, for example. And I was like, if you can do a hummingbird to scale, like I'd like to see what else you could do." And I was like, "Okay, good answer." Question number 2, who else have you talked to? And he said, "You're the first one I called." And I was like, "Good." Question number 3 is, can we keep it that way? And he's like, "Excuse me?" And I said, "I'll do it, but I don't want anybody else involved at all. I don't want anybody seeing my techniques. I don't want anybody seeing what I do. I got to keep this private, but I'll do the entire project for free if that's the case, instead of just doing one part of it." And he was like, "Wow. Oh, okay." And I used that to make so much money back off of that one project where I could take clients to. I took the Titans to it. I took the Preds to it. I took a 11,000 square foot church to it. I have a client down in Chattanooga, one of my biggest projects of all time, or most well-known projects of all time. All of that because I did that one project. It was worth every cent. Man.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, to make it funnier for you too, this whole background in painting you have, I have a master's in painting. The last thing you ever want me to do is paint a wall.
I took a test for Nevada, so I have a branch of my business in Nevada as well. I had to take a business law test, which was easy. I took the painter's test. I failed it 3 times, dude. I was a painter for 25 years. Like, there was questions on there, like, which brush would you use in this situation? And, man, the time that I passed that test, I was so happy. It was like I graduated college, magna cum laude.
Oh, right. It's funny. It's funny because I tell people I have a master's with a brush all the time. And part of my training classes is that I'm going to show you how to use a brush. By the time you're done, you're going to feel comfortable with a brush. It's the least I can do. But it's not probably to the level you're talking about. Like, I couldn't cut in a wall to save my life, but I can show you how to cut in a floor, no problem. It's so weird.
Right. Yeah, I transferred my painting skills to the flooring skills quite easily, man. When I train guys on my crew, I do look for former painters and stuff like that because they know how to roll. They hopefully know how to work hard, and they're able to kind of adapt to coatings. Like, we're going to mix this one 2-to-1, this one's a 1-to-1, so on and so forth like that. So they're kind of used to that setup, right?
I look for tile guys.
Yep.
That was my thing, because I actually did tile before I did this. And I thought it was an easy transition to understand layout, and it's a lot different layout to an extent, but it's the same theory. It's just a larger scale with the concrete, with some of the design work and stuff like that.
Yeah, dude, I was checking out a lot of your stuff, man, and kudos to you, dude. You are a legend in your industry for sure. I had thought to myself, like, wow, I never heard of this guy before this, but everybody around me is like, Rick Lodell, dude. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna definitely check him out. And like I said, again, props to you, dude. Your stuff is amazing. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, Garrett said that most of the team didn't know who I was, and he had to explain it to him. Idea. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. Most of you guys don't know who I am,
which is the point of being here. That's
Same
why
smell.
I like doing this.
They do refer to me as the legend around my company. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like to be referred to as the master. And that's always funny because everybody just kind of looks at me like that's a little egotistical. And I'm like, well, look, dude, first and foremost, I have a master's. So why can I not be called the master? Okay. Yeah. And how many people in our industry have a master's? So again, if I'm the only one, or one of the only ones, especially when it comes to art and everything, then why am I not allowed to be the master? Like, what's wrong with that? I don't think it's an ego. I think it's it's legitimate. Like,
Like, listen, just call me sensei. We'll just end it there.
But that's where I was going with it, because I had my son go into Kung Fu, and I go in there and the guy is Master Stevens, and I'm like, well, then does that mean I'm Master Lobdell? I was kind of a little ticked off about it, because I was like, that's not fair, because I actually paid a lot of money and worked my ass off to be. I mean, so did he. Like, to the same conversation, it's not like he didn't work his life off to become a master either. So I was like, that's kind of not fair that everybody automatically calls you Master Stevens everywhere you go. What's wrong with calling me Master Lobdell everywhere I go? I don't see the issue. I don't know why. Why is that an ego? I think that's like respect. I don't know.
I'll also argue that you need a little bit of ego out here. You can't just roll around super humble everywhere. You gotta have a little presence.
One of the things I had to learn was separate the difference between ego and confidence.
Yes.
It's completely okay to show confidence in what you do and being, and standing behind your work. It's another thing to go around and be like an egotistical maniac, because trust me, I'm very good at being an egotistical maniac. It took me years to tone it down to just showing that I'm confident. There's a fine line between those two, and you can come across as an arrogant prick if you're over egotistical. Yeah, but if you come across confident, then they're just like, whatever, until they see what you really can do. So I'm like,
I think some people will still read it as ego, even though it is straight confidence. I advise on a lot of projects, and sometimes I'll throw out the suggestion that is top of my mind, and they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, really. Like, that's what you should do.
Yeah, right. Well, with the classes that you do, those are all local to your area?
So I'm in Denver. My company is headquartered in Indiana. So they're all held in Indiana, and the people come from around the country to train at this location. We have a nice back warehouse with a bunch of open space for floors. So
you're training people for Indiana, you're not training people for Denver?
I'm training people nationwide.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
It's a franchise. All the franchisees from around the country come to Indiana.
I see.
Do the training.
That's cool.
And then, I do handle all the Denver floors pretty much.
I get it. That's cool. No, that's why I was asking, because that was one of the hardest things for me to get to when I got to the level of teaching, that I didn't want to teach my competition. That was like one of those irritations. It was like, this is my town. I don't really want to teach you. And
you're creating a bunch of Rick babies out there. Yeah.
I don't want to do that, and everybody was always like, well, yeah, but they're not going to be able to do what you do. And I'm like, that's not the point. It's still my town. I don't, I literally had a friend of mine want to come do a training class and ask me if I would help advertise it. And I was like, no, I won't help you at all. I don't want you to come here and teach my competition. I'd rather you stay out of my town.
You're like the dude from Kill Bill, that guy that trains people, like, isolated up in the hills, the master. Yeah. Like, he doesn't train people anymore, but he said he'll train you.
Yes. But I got over it, especially once I started to retire. I got over it. And it did happen, because I had a guy from Tennessee come to one of my training classes, and I was just on that retirement side of it. So I was like, okay, how's this going to work? And I made fun of it the whole time. I kept eyeing him, and I kept telling him, that this is bothering me. And I was very vocal about it in a fun way. And by the end of it, I was nice enough to even, like, which is stuff I've had to learn over the years to calm down. I literally got his number at the end of the class, reached out to him when we got back home, went out to lunch with him, and I've helped him a few times and consulted with him a few times. So I'm getting over that. I'm getting better. But it was a big challenge for me to have competition in my training class, because it had never happened before for me, because I don't do that kind of stuff in Nashville. I'll go anywhere in the country, but I've never done it in Nashville. It's funny.
Right. I thought the same thing when I started training people, like, hey, I'm probably training my replacement here. And I was assured by the owner of the company that that's not the case. I still am the guy for all the large commercial projects. And then I'll just train people, man. And I like training people. I like passing the knowledge along.
Yeah, well, the way I look at it is, when I started, I didn't have someone like me to help me.
Correct.
And I would rather help you now before you have to do all the mistakes I did to get to the point that I got to, because it wasn't easy,
Brother,
I lost a ton of money to get there.
Yeah,
so
Absolutely. A lot of trial by fire for me, man. Um, Especially my first training program with painters. I designed it. I thought it was the shit. And I started putting guys through it, and they're just like, I don't get it, man. So I had to adjust and make it, simplify it more for the average person, right?
Well, and going back to like the ego issues that I've had, right after, I mean, I had been doing this for three and a half years when I bought my company. I took it over that I was an employee for the company, and then 3 years later I ended up buying the company. And so right after that, like I thought I knew everything. I thought I was in complete control of this universe, and all I was doing was acid stain and solvent-based sealers. I didn't know anything else, and solid colored sealers and stuff like that. And I thought that all of that was enough to start my own franchises and teach people how to just use acid stain and sealer and not do anything else, and design and stuff like that. I really had no idea that epoxies, urethane, I didn't know any of that existed. Dyes, polishing. I thought I knew everything, and I had no clue. And that's what's funny about it, is that it's such a different world now for me. But there was a place in time where I was like, I got this under control. I don't need any help. I know exactly what I'm doing. Stay out of my way, and I'm going to show the world. And no, I only knew, the tiniest little bit of what we can do.
Yeah, I felt that coming into the competition as well, man. So we talked about it. I've done metallic. I've done flake. I've done layouts like that. My least favorite floor is a checkerboard floor. Just for the record, hate them, man. But I'd never touched the overlay. But I'm a self starter, man. If I can see somebody do it, I can definitely jump right behind them and get after it. And I felt like in the competition, I was spread across everything just a little bit. So I touched everything. Didn't really do too much of the carving, man, because Dustin was so good at that. I really didn't want to offer my help because he's really good at that stuff, man.
Right.
He puts out amazing stuff. I will take credit for the bird. The bird was my idea. We named it Brian.
The mocking
we did
bird.
Want it. It was supposed to be a crow or something like that, but it ended up being a certain type of duck that Dustin had in his head. And it looked great, dude. I couldn't say anything negative about it. But we missed one thing that I wanted to do, which was carve a heart in the back of that tree and put "I Love Brian" in there.
That would have been
Didn't
awesome.
have time for it, yeah. But I thought that might win us some style points. But
no one probably would have noticed it, but it would have been funny. You would have had to point it out.
I would have had it for the record.
Yeah, it would have been a great photo, though.
Definitely, man. But
we should have just done it anyway. If you would have told me about it, I probably would have done it like Thursday or Friday night. I would have just walked over there while we were still hanging out and just carved it in for the hell of it, just for fun.
That's what I told him. I wanted it to look like it was knife carved into the tree like that.
Yeah.
But hey, there's always next year, dude.
You thinking about doing it again next year?
Oh, absolutely, man.
Are you going to put your own team together?
I want to see what unfolds from now until January, really. I don't want to make any brash moves. I would love to go with the same guys again. I think Garrett is already putting together his own team. And I've confidentially spoke to him like, hey, man, I'd love to run with you again. But I really do just want to see what else is going to unfold by January.
Sure.
As if I have an opportunity to build my own team or whatever. I don't want to commit right this second to doing that. And I told him no harm, no foul, man. Just put me on the list tentatively. If something else comes up for me, I have to pursue it, man, because this is my life. This is my brand. If I took a team and won, that means a lot to me and my business, right? And
I agree.
The same for him.
Are you? Yeah. I mean, I think that you. Well, first of all, I'm wearing the Epoxy Floor Wars shirt,
right?
Just for you.
Thanks, buddy.
But I do think that is something that you should capitalize on business wise right now. And put that.
I'm seeing the rest of the guys too. Like Dustin's doing. I know he had taught classes before, but now he's kind of driving that home. Andrew's always taught the classes, and I don't feel like I'll go privately and start teaching classes just yet. But But even for your contracting, like putting it on your trailer, winner of Epoxy Floor Wars Season 2 is not a bad advertisement at all. and then they're like, "What's that?"
Correct.
And then,
That's my point.
You point them towards the website and just spread awareness about it for sure.
Yeah, even for yourself, because it makes you look good to be on that, especially once the show finally starts coming out. Like, it's a
Right.
little too
I'm
early
looking
right
forward
now
to
is the
that,
problem.
too.
But I can't wait
Yeah.
to see how they put the episodes together, and of course, how much I'm in the episodes, because that was my, my shameful part of it. Because, doing a judge last year, we weren't really a part of anything. And it was kind of frustrating because I was like, well, don't you think the judges should be important? And so when they talked about the fact that they need a commentator, I was like, that sounds like a great idea,
experience.
And I jumped on like their committee board, if you will, for the next year. And so I was part of all the planning leading up to this season.
Right. Kudos to you, dude. It was a great season. I think the way I see it unfolding with the brackets and everything in the different states, I've looked towards some corporate sponsorship for the team, see what happens there, and then no matter what, man, it's going to be a great time again. I'm definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, as far as seeing yourself in the footage, dude, all the Facebook adverts, I've been keeping track and screenshotting. Dude, I'm in so many of those, and I send them around to everybody I know. I got this one with the gladiator helmet on. That's my son's like, that's tough. I was like, I don't know what that means, but thanks.
My kids don't even care. Well, my daughter does a little bit. My son could care less.
I had jumped out of the Hummer limo, and that shot is on every single advertisement. So it's like,
well, next year they're going to put a camera in the limo.
Yeah, definitely.
That's something they hadn't thought about. We talked about that last Friday.
On the way.
Yeah.
I had recommended and offered for them to come to our Airbnb, which was like a beautiful cabin in the woods, and there's 4 of us sleeping in there. And if you have Tyler on, he'll tell you I snore like a bear, dude, when I'm tired, and especially when I'm down elevation because there's so much oxygen out there.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, he had to come kick the couch because I was keeping him up at night with my snoring. It was funny. But I had offered for them to come bring the cameras, dude, like see how we're living, see how we're strategizing at night when we go home. And
should have just filmed it yourself, man.
I know, man. I had the glasses. I have footage. I just I don't know where that connection with what Steven's doing to my footage would be. You know what I mean?
All it is just sending it to them and seeing if they can use it at all. Like to your same point, but I didn't even know anybody but Isaiah and the judges last year when I went. So I met Steven for the first time the Wednesday before the show and started talking to him right away, pulled out my podcast equipment the same night that I did on the Friday night and got him right away and got him on camera. And that audio they ended up using for the first episode, the pilot, because no one had asked how this all started and everything. And he was like, well, I did. There's a podcast all about it. So I sent them my audio and everything, and they used it to open up that pilot.
Nice, man.
So you never know. You know what I mean? Like they'll use it if they can. Sure. They can't do everything. So anything we can do to help them, it is a team effort when it comes to all that kind of stuff.
Definitely. I think a great idea I have about it is these glasses, man. The Meta Ray-Ban ones. You can take a 3-minute video and you can take pictures with it. Give these out to the contestants, dude. Get Meta to sponsor it, maybe. And
that's true.
Just have the straight action. You're going to have a lot of this with the camera because we're moving so much and everything. But a live view of how to do that or what's going on there, I think would be super valuable.
It could be. That's an interesting idea.
I'm not paid by Meta in any way. Yeah, hey, Meta, if you want to pay me, I'm all up for it. Bring it.
Me too.
Come on, Mark. Let's go. I'm seeing more and more people wear these around, and they're just really cool, man. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're the
a little bit
Ray-Ban Meta glasses. They take video. They you can play music through them. You can take calls over them, and they take pictures. And these specific ones, they're clear inside right now. If I walk outside, boom, I'm the man in shades.
Oh,
they
cool.
transition to shades, basically.
It always takes longer. It always takes longer for him to go back to clear when you go back into a building.
It does, dude. It does. Yeah. But yeah, I love these things, man. Garrett just got a pair, and he was looking at mine the whole time we were on the Epoxy Floor Wars, and I was telling him how clear the video is, and he is an excellent photographer, dude. I don't know if you've seen some of his photos. Something that's in his head just gets him to line it up just perfect. I've stolen so many of his photos off Facebook to use on my own stuff. But yeah, as far as the team goes, man, everybody was great. It was a pleasure and a privilege to work with all of them. Like I said, I knew Andrew, but I had never worked with him, and we all just clicked, man. I did feel like I caught a lot of the cleanup work, which I was okay with, dude, because I'm very big on getting that site clean before install. And I took a lot of pride in mixing the metallics, and I had all the buckets laid out exactly perfect, ratio-wise. Mixed them all for 2.5, 3 minutes, just like is recommended. I knew that someone was going to be watching that. Like, if I spun one up for 1.5 minutes and then let them throw it on the floor, like, that's on me, dude. So I had to make sure everything was tight with that. I would have liked to get more involved in the actual metallic layout, because I do feel like I could have nailed that pattern that they had for us, which was the big white stripe with gold kind of going through it, blue on the edges.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because they poured a little too much in those places. I was watching that. I was like, they were way off of the mark on that. Yeah. But they were running out of time. They were panicking.
Yeah. If you look at the last seconds, what I was doing, I was cleaning up metallic drips that were on the planks.
Oh, okay.
I knew that would be some kind of deduction, right? And more power to you guys. I know you weren't a judge this year, but the judges, man, they were really holding us to that standard. And I think that's what needs to be done, right?
Oh, of course.
And I totally feel the safety aspect of it, which I know you're a huge part of, right?
Yes.
I actually, I've had my mask in my bag still, just in case today. Might throw it on. They're not comfortable for me, but again,
and plus they were doing a terrible job of wearing the masks because they didn't understand to open them up. They kept keeping them closed just over their mouth. And I'm like, I was trying my hardest to not get in the middle of it. I wanted to freak out on everybody so bad, but it was a lot better than last year. So sure. I was a lot better.
My reason is with the beard, it never really works out for me, man. But I do wear them. I do recommend that everybody wear them in my training classes. I pass them out. And as you know, if you don't use it, that's on you. I have provided for you. Here you go. Save your life from the dust and the silica and everything else that's kind of wafting in the air. And if you don't want to wear it, man, good luck to you.
Oh, I had an employee that was in the military, and he refused to wear a mask, and he didn't even care about the vacuum. And I was so frustrated with him because, like, I came to a commercial job he was doing once, and I just saw this bellowing smoke coming out of there, and it wasn't smoke, it was silica. And I'm like, I walk in with a mask on going, what the hell? And he had no mask on, had no care in the world. It was all in the trailer. Right. And he was just like same point of like, well, if I get sick, I'm not going to blame you for it. And I'm like, I can't guarantee that. All I can guarantee is that you have to do what I tell you to do. Cause I flipped out on him about it. And, he did it on a couple jobs. And like I had one job, I went out of town and he was doing a house and the homeowners had to leave for us to prep this floor and stuff like that. And we plastic off this entire room, and he was I had him strip it. So I gave him a stripper instead because it was inside. Well, I come back like a couple of days later after my trip, and I'm in so much trouble by the homeowners. And I'm like, what? There's dust, like a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of dust all over the entire house. And this was completely blocked off. And I was like, what did you do? And he said, the stripping wasn't working, so I started grinding. And I was like, okay, but how did it get to the rest of the house? They turned the air on. He didn't. The homeowner did. And it sucked it in and dusted everything. $10,000 cleaning bill just for the laundromat alone. $10,000 cleaning bill.
Your insurance agent loved that, right?
Oh, I was livid with my guys. I was like, I can't ever go out of town again. Like, I can't leave if I can't trust you to do something that ridiculous. I mean, what were you thinking? And I was, it just drove me crazy. And when I joined ASCC, I thought I was safe. I thought I had done things the way you're supposed to, but then I realized, no, I'm in shorts and flip-flops every day on a pool deck, or sometimes barefoot. I was engraving barefoot, never even crossed my mind. You know, there was a lot of things I was doing that was like, hey, idiot, hey, idiot, hey, idiot, you know, never crossed my mind. And ASCC's relentless on you about it, you know, like relentless. And so when I have that opportunity, because I get what they're trying to say, like I told you guys on Wednesday night, the world is watching. And when I figured that out, that the world was watching me, that's when they came to me and was like, hey, dude, don't forget, you got the world watching you, and you're sitting here doing these videos without this, and you're doing these photos without this. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, man. You know, even to the point that I had a Facebook forum, I had posted some design I did, and some idiot said, oh, look, it's just another Vine design, like anybody can do that kind of thing. And I'm like, what? And so the whole group just attacked him, and I did too. And I started on a rampage of like, oh, you think that just anybody can do this? Well, here's an article I did about it. Here's an award I won about it. You know, like this is just a one-time thing. Oh yeah, everybody can do it. And it turns out the guy just pours broom finished concrete, and he was just trolling. Yeah. And they even kicked him out of the group and then brought him back in to still dig in. And literally ASCC called me and was like, hey, dude, so, you know, we're watching this, and just, you know, think about what you're saying. You know, like you're beating a guy down for what reason? Is it really? And I was like, oh, good point.
Another one of those humbling moments, right?
I don't need to do that. Yeah, it is. And that's why I love that organization so much, because I need that. If I didn't have that, I would be that arrogant prick all the time that we talked about in the beginning. You know, I do need someone. You know, you go to those conferences, and you're hanging out with the best of the best of the best of the best of, you know, in the entire world, and it's like, it's humbling, because then you realize you're just another contractor. You're not the, you know, in your hometown you might be the, you know, and then you go to this random Epoxy Floor Wars show, and you're not the, you're just you're just another. You know, it's kind of the same thing, where that's what ASCC is for me, where I'm hanging out with a bunch of my peers, and I need that humbling moment of realizing I'm not the only one. I'm not the best. Someone else is still better than me at this, or better at me than that. You need that. You need that grounding, or else you'll just go off the, you know, beaten path and become insane.
Keeps you on your toes too.
It does. It helps a lot. I love that organization. And I've learned so much from them, not just safety, but so much about concrete, so much about so many different things that I was making mistakes on. And it helped me go into, like, say, for example, like the Bridgestone Arena of the Nashville Predators Stadium. I was doing their Lexus Lounge, 15,000 square feet of dye and polyaspartic. And they had to pour a new section. They had to rip out plumbing lines and pour them back in. And I was able to go in there with the contractor and the concrete guy and go, well, what's your mix design? And they're both like, why are you asking that? Well, I need to know how long you know what I mean? Like, and I was so happy with myself. I called my buddy that trained me on all that stuff from ASCC, and I was like, look, dude, I walked into the meeting and I knew what I was talking about, and they listened. I felt so good. I was like, I knew what I was talking about for once, because I've never poured concrete. I wouldn't know how to pour. I mean, you don't want me pouring concrete. That's not what I do. Yeah. I got somebody for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, my safety background comes from, I was a suspended scaffold painter for a while with my business. And oh man, we had to set up the rigs on the roof. We had to set up the ropes that would catch us if something happened. And guys would always ask, like, can you tie off my rope? I was like, absolutely not, dude. Like, you need to tie your own rope, and here's how you do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had to follow strict guidelines for that. It was downtown Chicago. Just a lot that can go wrong on that. And the one thing that I got dinged on, and I think they did it on purpose, is we had scaffolds set up below with lights. And we checked the lights every night before we go home. And we arrived one morning, and I got a call that we got a ticket. It's like, for what? They're like, oh, one light bulb was out. And I was like, no, it wasn't, dude. Like, you guys put that light bulb out, wrote us our little ticket, and they never came back. So yeah, it was a little check mark on my record for that. But
yeah, I know a company that, to the same point of like the little details you don't think about too. Right. I know a company that got in trouble for their propane tanks for the grinders, because they changed it at the machine instead of outside at the container holder.
Safety first.
Right.
Yep.
And they got charged thousands. I mean, thousands.
Yeah.
Because the OSHA just literally watched them do it. He just stood there and watched them go outside and grab a new tank and walk over and sit down on the floor and grab the old tank. And like, they just sat there watching them and was like, didn't stop them, just waited for them to do it and then wrote it up and sent them up.
That's entrapment.
It was bad.
Yeah, I took my lead certification back in probably 2007, maybe. And,
you mean to eat lead, like you like to eat lead?
No. For lead removal and abatement.
Yeah.
For painting mostly. And, man, I left that class and they're like, all right, we got your first lead job. I was like, no thanks, man. Like, I'm going to pass on that. Just because of the $37,500 fine per day that you did something wrong and all the paperwork. And, like, I'm not the one. Let somebody else go ahead and take that money.
Yeah.
Go for it, dude.
But it also would help your sales to be able to go into a job and be like, I know what it's going to take to do this. That does still help you to have all that knowledge, even if you don't ever be the one to do it. Because I wouldn't. Same thing with asbestos. We just coated over that floor. If there was a VCT tiled and we weren't sure what it was, we just poured overlay over top of it. We didn't remove it. We went over top of it. We're like, we're not going to touch the past. Screw that. And I want nothing to do with
that, man. I see a lot of guys on the concrete groups against going over tile like that. I've done it successfully quite a few times, and you just got to do it right.
It's one of the things that people don't realize about our industry is you think that everything we do has to go to concrete, but really a lot of these coatings will bond to anything.
Yeah.
Like I do countertops all the time. I don't do concrete countertops. I do wood countertops, and I pour metallic all over them all the time. That's a whole separate method of technique and everything like that, but there's no limit to what you can do with our coatings. It's just so many people assume it's concrete only.
Yeah. And they want to break that grinder out, like get some use out of that brand new car machine.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So just switching topics, like what would you want to see next year at Epoxy Floor Wars? Because I'm thinking if you do the same thing over and over again, it's going to get stagnant, right? So there's got to be new challenges and stuff like that.
Well,
new setups, new designs.
We are talking about maybe moving it in that room so that we have more room for the challenges, first of all.
Yep.
So that they're not crammed in the corner. There's a lot of things we talked about last Friday about what we think we might do differently. Because, like for example, there's not really an audience. So why do we have all the bleachers?
Right.
And Steven and I agree with him.
Right?
We don't really need an audience. An audience could cause more trouble from a safety point of view, first and foremost, since there is safety issues going on. Because by the end of the show, if you saw my table up on the it was covered in dust. You could see right where all of my papers were about all you guys and stuff like that. You pull them off, and there's you could see exactly where everything's at. And so if there's that much dust in the air, we have to really be cautious about safety when it comes to the audience.
Start passing the masks out, buddy.
Right. Next of all, if all the audience, say they did have all of those stands completely filled to the max, how could we hear anything? Yeah. Because they're all going to be talking too, cheering and stuff like that. So then it becomes more complicated for everybody to communicate or to hear it on the mic or to hear it, through the cameras and everything. It could cause more trouble. Right. Steven was never worried about having a bunch of audience. He was just putting them there in case people want, and it's because we need to have somewhere to sit.
And stuff.
We do need somewhere to sit and stuff like that too.
For sure.
So we're working on that, and we're thinking about rearranging that room because of that, and trying to change the way we think about it. And by doing that, because I pointed out, if you do that, then we can open those challenges up to their own spaces, so that we're not, because it's really hard to film in that corner because everybody's in the way.
Yeah.
And it was cool that we walked against the wall on the other side. They told us to do that. They're like, hey, why don't you go over there and talk? And I'm like, genius. So we stood behind you guys the entire time, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
giving the play-by-play. It's so funny. I felt so bad for Brett I've got to call him and get him on the show because he's one of my students, and he's a very devoted student. I mean, he already posted about my next training class coming up, and he's hardcore about my techniques and totally gets it and believes in everything. You know, he drinks my Kool-Aid. He loves what I'm doing, and he's a great guy. I've known him for a couple years now because he was there last year and this year. But man, when he engraved my design and butchered it, I felt I was just relentless on him. And after he got done, I put my mic down, and you can see it in the video on day 2. I pulled my mic down, and I'm like, dude, what were you thinking? And he was like, well, it was because Brian was yelling at me. And I'm like, no, dude, he was yelling at you because you weren't listening to him. I was like, you should have followed what he said. And he was like, I don't, and he was just flustered. And I'm like, I'm sorry, man, but you ruined that. I felt so bad. Definitely. But it was terrible. I mean, I felt so bad. Those
challenges were tough, dude.
They're very tough.
We were rolling up to the Cove Base one, and I have laid miles of easy Cove Base. Easy Cove. Not the trowel kind, right? So they said Cove Base. I was like, dude, I got this. And we walk over there, and it's the troweled. I was like, oh, shit. So nobody had done it before, really. And Garrett kind of got the short end of the stick. They're like, you do, man.
He said that in our video.
Never touched it.
Yeah, in our interview, he was like, I've never done this before. And I told him not to make me do it. Yeah.
Right. And, sometimes you just throw somebody out there, dude, because they're good at what they do, right? And you think you can handle it, and then it doesn't work out.
Well, the crazy thing to that too is cool. Nick Laws has done it before, but he was doing it all, and his hand was just the whole entire time. I don't know. Did you see that? Like shaking.
Yeah, it's straight nerves, dude. I've seen it. I competed in the painting Olympics back in the day for Certapro painters.
Yeah.
And I'll shit you not, man. That was my first appearance in front of hundreds of people in my industry, watching us paint a little section of wall in a certain amount of time. And yeah, you do get a little stage fright, a little shaky.
Well, I asked him about it, and he said, I shake almost all the time until you put a trowel in my hand. And literally you watch the video, and he's like this until he grabs the trowel to do the edge, and then all of a sudden there's no shake. It's amazing. And we captured it perfectly, and we're talking about it perfectly, and then he told us right after. So we couldn't have timed it better to give you that play-by-play of the true reality of what's going on in that moment and stuff like that. It was pretty awesome. I had
another great talented dude, man.
Yeah, Nick that dude was awesome.
Amazing.
I had a blast doing the commentary, and the problem is I'm nervous when you guys finally see the final, what I said. I'm nervous what you guys are going to go like, what a dick, every single time when you hear what I said in the background the whole time.
I'll say I started out, I gleaned your persona from across the room. I may have had the initial first impression there, but after talking to you and meeting with you and stuff like that, you're a real dude, man.
Yeah, well, you just wait. You wait to hear to see what I said. Because I was constantly going, oh, they made a mistake here. They made a mistake here. There's a mistake here. This is what they should have done here. They should have done it this way here.
You're just doing your job, man. That's it. That was your job there. So anybody that takes it personal needs to, just step back and take a breath, man. Own it. We made mistakes for sure. Yeah,
well, I mean, without a question, like I tell people all the time, come to an art museum with me, and I'll show you reality, and I'll show you the real world and what's really going on, and take me to a gallery, and I'll just tear this person apart. And it's crazy because there's just too much going on in my head that I can show you what you're doing wrong. It's just who wants to learn what they're doing wrong. Nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear that they're amazing.
That's a tough one, dude. That's exactly.
But there was one moment where they took our mic away from us because the video guys had to go do another video in some other town, and so they took my mic away from me. And I'm like, well, now what do I do? Like the last hour on Friday, I didn't have a mic for a second. So the audio guys gave me one, and it was going to work on the speakers, which is something that Steven wanted the whole time, and I didn't. I was like, I don't want to be live on the speakers. I don't want you guys to hear what I'm saying. Yeah, so sure enough, I'm sitting there making fun of you guys drawing out your 3D tile pattern, and you all turn around and look at me, and every single one of you were like,
"Where are you staying, Rick?"
Oh, they were. Dustin was yelling. I'm like, I'm just telling the truth, man. So in my feedback, I was like, I cannot be on the speakers because you guys can't hear how brutal I am. That you'll kill me.
I would love to, man, because I'll take all that and shrink it up and do stuff better. You know, constant improvement is something I work on all the time.
Oh yeah, no, I mean afterwards, sure, but in that moment, no, because you can't correct
we,
it.
we were looking at a lot of people in that moment, man. Like the referees, just like, dude, can we do this? Can we get this? Can we get that? And we were just lacking a lot of stuff and a lot of clarity, I guess. I didn't remember us stepping over the line that many times onto the floor. In fact, I was taunting one of the judges. I would put my foot out like I was going to step on it and like look at him, be like, ooh.
No, the refs had a hard time because they really didn't know what they were supposed to do because they weren't that clued into all the rules or the details, because that was a new thing too, because we let a lot of things slide last year. So this year it was like, well, there's a lot of things we got to use. The whole point of this is to take points away. Like we have to be able to do that. And the judges did it internally last year without telling anybody. But we never did to that detail of like stepping
just like
on the line.
You should know the rules type deal.
Yeah. And so we knew it, like, because we were making it up as we were going. Like they gave us rules, but the judges didn't know anything ahead of time last year. And so it was good this year that at least two of the judges and then Isaiah, because he was on it last year and he was part of the creation of it all. So it was good this year that 3 people knew what was going on and could help the 4th person. Last year, we were going up to Steve and going, well, what do we do about this? What do we do about this? How do we, how do you put a grade for prep together when the prep's not done yet and we don't really know what they're going to do on top of it because maybe they didn't prep it correctly. So we couldn't give you a point system the first day without truly knowing where this was going. And so we had to wait till the end. And that's one of the things I made a point of for this year was that's why we only gave you negatives at the end of each day. We couldn't give you positives because we can't tell you, the judges can't be put on a spot like that and give points yet. It was too confusing for us. And there's not enough going on that first day to really judge that until we really know what's going on. So it's really tough for the judges. I was jealous that I wasn't part of the judges this year, but at the same time, I had way more fun and then got to watch them panic and put a mic in front of them while they were panicking because they do. We all took it extremely serious. This is an opportunity to show the world how difficult what we do is. And so we have to make sure that we are adamant about how difficult this really is. And given the crunch time, we still have the same expectations on a real job. It doesn't matter if you have 1 hour or 10 days, you still have to be able to figure out how to do it correctly. And there's no room for letting things slide with those circumstances. So, we were hardcore about it and we had to be, it was too much respect going on for it to not.
I think it'll be appreciated in the end results. Like when this finally gets on like a streaming platform and super professional and you guys are calling everything out. Like on Ink Master, dude, they don't let anything slide.
No.
Like I didn't like your shading right there, dude.
And here's another point to Ink Master. To your point, here's another point to Ink Master. First of all, the judges don't wear the same outfits.
Right.
That's really weird to me. And they did that the first year, and I was like, no. And they gave me my shirts, and I'm like, no, I'm not wearing these. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, you don't know me. I have my own. I've already brought my own wardrobe.
You had some sweet shirts rolling out and jackets. I loved your jackets, dude. I have a purple snakeskin jacket that I wear with my black pants and my 3-piece. Fucking love it, dude.
Yeah,
it's the best.
Absolutely.
You got to shine. You're
so that was one thing. But the other thing to Ink Master too is there's no audience.
Right.
So why do we need an audience? Like that was what we were saying was this isn't Dancing with the Stars where we need a bunch of people clapping in the background and cheering us on. We need to have complete control of our environment. And we could give you a little bit more room to just breathe around the project if we didn't have all those bleachers. Expand it another 6 feet. You don't need twice as much space, but if you just had 6 feet on one side where you could put the bench and it's out of your way and you could actually sit down if you wanted to, things like that. There's ways to give us just a little bit more leeway to be able to do what you need to do correctly and not be so confined into those little tiny spaces because it's difficult to even walk around each other. You have to really be careful to not step on the line just to walk by each other.
I think I'll say too, despite all the challenges, everybody pulled it together on that third day like no other, man.
No other.
And if we didn't have something, we used something alternate. and yeah, it just all came together so awesome, dude. And those final 15 minutes was like, wow.
Well,
My
even interviewing Brian and Andrew Friday night, Brian was like, I don't see how we're going to get anything stained. He's like, I really don't see us finishing. And I was like, you can do it. And they did. I mean, they ripped that. And I thought their metallic looked better than your guys's. I really wish they would have ground those two pinwheels and not put the big giant stones there, because I think they would have won if they had done that.
Close, very close.
Because their metallic looked fantastic.
Yeah,
it really did. And their stones looked better than yours, and stuff like that. It was the only reason you guys won is you had a better design. It really goes down to that, and that's important.
Yeah, that was something that was important to me right off the bat. Garrett as well. We, like he said, we each laid out our design, and then he ended up drawing out the final one, and we're like, that's it right there.
Yeah, I did like your guys' design when it was all said and done. It came together.
Than that, I watched the first season, if you just section it up, the presentation is like, here it is. But we wanted it to look like a scene. Like something's going on there.
Correct. Same thing with Isaiah last year too. But the problem was Isaiah couldn't do the 3D tile either. He had just as much trouble as you guys did. And it almost cost him the entire competition. He should have lost. He really should have lost. But his design was so much better that it was hard for us to so we, like with the 3D flake pattern, we gave him the lowest score we could possibly give him. And he still won because of the challenges. That's why he won, is the challenges. That's how close it was, because we weren't giving him any points for that, because I actually had to help him. What no one knows is on day 3, he still hadn't done it yet. So I finally stood in the background. Bob Harris and I both were talking to each other, and I looked at Isaiah and I was like, okay, look. So I took a piece of paper and I drew one image and I was like, draw this. Nope, yep. Okay, now draw this. And I would just stand there waiting, and he'd be looking, and I just took it one step at a time because we couldn't have an unfinished competition, especially the first year. It had to be finished no matter what.
I think that'd be a good little sidebar thing. Like, you can get 60 seconds of a judge's advice.
I asked that for this year. And what they did say is what they did this year was it is in the rules that you're allowed to ask one question to each judge. So your question could have been, how do I draw this? You know what I mean? You don't have to ask another question. So you could have easily said, how do I draw this? Or what?
We were conflicted because there was also a rule that said talking to spectators would get you points off.
Yeah, but the judges are not the spectators. And the captain would have had to be the one requesting it. You know what I mean? The captain would have had to come to the judge and go, how do I do this? Or to ask those questions. But yes, you can at least ask advice from us. You can. Well, not from me, because I'm not a judge anymore. But, Yeah,
definitely, man.
And next year's going to be 50,000.
Yeah, buddy.
It's going to be awesome.
That was more of my part for looking for a sponsor. 2,500 isn't a lot of money to some people, but I had to go talk to my wife, man. I'm like, hey, I want to spend this 2,500 plus traveling out there, and I could possibly lose and come home with nothing.
Right.
Like, are you okay with that? And I think any healthy relationship has those talks, right?
Of course.
Like, I'm going to go blow some money. Are you okay with it? And, she was hesitant, and her vote was that you probably shouldn't do it right now. And I was like, you know what? I got a veto on this one. I'm going for it. And I told people that we were going to win before I even left. I went in with that. I know Andrew. I know what he's capable of. I know what I'm capable of. I looked up Garrett's stuff. Amazing. Dustin, same thing. Tyler, same thing. I was like, we got this, man.
That's awesome.
Between me and you and the world, I saw Brian sweating on day one, and I was like, we got him.
Well, in his defense,
he came back really, really hard, though, man.
Yeah, but in his defense, he had 3 people
he had a lot going on, dude.
Drop out within that week, including the day before and the day after it started.
The hurricanes going on where he lives, like.
Yeah, he almost didn't come. He almost stayed
Can
home.
you handle the pressure? And
Yeah.
he totally did, man. Kudos. Shout out to you, Brian.
I
and your whole
completely
team.
agree. Like, mad respect for Brian, because you gave him, not you, but we gave him worst case scenario to pull this off, and he still almost did.
He rose to the challenge, man.
I mean, he stepped up and he got it done. So even changing
Gonna be
out
a
the
tough one
polishing
next
guy
year.
after the first day, and he had to start all over because the polish, because they had a harder polish. You
Right.
guys had an easier polish, and you had more joint filling to do. He had a harder polish and like no joint to fill.
Yep.
So it was that was part of the agreement between the two captains, was that they were going to take a lot longer polishing, and then to start all over on day 2, it's almost impossible to finish that.
Tough one for sure.
Well, cool, man.
I look forward to it again, dude. I think it's going to be even better this year and continuing on. I hope to see it be a 100-part series one day. And
well, the thing too is that
done.
World of Concrete's talking to them.
Nice.
So we're trying to figure out a way to involve maybe doing part of the competition. Maybe like round 1 is at World of Concrete.
Right.
A
big old floor off, right?
Right. Because that's something that they need out in that silver lot. Have you been to World of Concrete?
No, I'm actually thinking about it this year.
Oh, it'll blow your mind.
Going to check it out.
It's the 3rd largest convention in Vegas.
No doubt.
Concrete.
My company's convention's in Vegas in March this year, so looking forward to that as well.
Yeah. I highly recommend going there, and let me know if you do, because you can come hang out.
Sure.
I'll show you a good time. This will be my 15th year in a row or something like that.
Nice.
Something crazy. So I highly recommend going out there and seeing how big this industry really is, because it gives you a big picture of how far you can go with stuff and how much there is to do, and it's mind blowing. And we can work on that overlay, because overlay is really easy to do. The basics, now not what you guys were doing, but to do the basics is really not that complicated to bring extra income to your projects. Like to do outdoor is a whole nother world. Like I'm an outdoor guy. Yes, I did a lot of metallic. I did a lot of epoxies. I did a lot of everything, and dyes and everything like that. I've won 2 awards in polishing and stuff, but really outdoor is my market, my money making, all that kind of stuff. There's so much you can do outside, and your material costs are very low. So you can charge good, and you have low material costs, and it's easy work. A lot of it can be relatively easy to do. There's no limit.
My neighbor out in Colorado is going to let me try my first one on his small patio, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, let me know if you have any questions on that, man. I'll help you out.
Absolutely, dude, for sure.
It's only a phone call away. So tell me about this bounty hunting thing. I can't. I've been dying to ask you, but I can't get over it. I got to know.
So I like to do a lot of things. I wear a lot of different hats. It was last winter. I was experiencing a little lull, so I had some time, and just happened to be on Facebook and saw a advertisement for bounty hunter certification. So
this was just last year?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So I went and took the class. They taught us the rules, the laws on bounty hunting, certain statutes and that we had to abide by, what to do type scenarios. And then we did physical training as well, takedowns and handcuffing and stuff like that. And I've always been an athlete. I do box a little bit, so I had some relative experience with that. And the instructor John just he took to me, asked me like, "Hey, do you want to, kind of intern?" He's like, "You'll ride along with me. I'll teach you how to do this." And he's like, "And then you can do it on your own or whatever." So I accepted, and him and I went 10 for 10 on arrests. The part that I like the most is the pursuit.
Of course.
If I'm looking for you, Rick, I'm going to start out with your Facebook profile. Then I'm going to find your address through certain sources. Then probably talk to your cosigner, and then I will make your world so small, so quick that you'll make a mistake, and I will find you. When I do find you, I'm a pretty nice guy. I'm like, "Hey, man, you got this warrant. I need to take you in. Can you step over here?" And it's at that point that everyone makes the decision whether they want to step over here or they want to run, or they want to take a swing at you, or whatever.
Right.
I can't get into too many details, but I'll say I've fought a few people, and I always end up going home. They always end up leaving in the ambo. So,
Of course.
yeah. I do carry a pistol and a taser and wear a bulletproof vest. Very safe out there. I never reach for the pistol. I'll go for hands first. If you're not working with hands, I'm pulling that taser out. Unfortunately, if anyone ever does go with the pistol, I'm going home. That's my MO. So I need to make it back to the family. It's not something I do full time, man. I more of did it like Patrick Swayze would do it, like surfing that wave, right? You're getting the adrenaline rush, and you sure do get it, man. I'll tell you what. I experienced a few, and it's just exhilarating, dude.
It's funny you say that because there's a small town I have to drive through every single day on my way home from work in Nashville area, one of the suburbs. And every once in a while, there's always these police chases. And it's insane. And I'm like, man, how much crime is in this town? And it's not the crime. It's the exact opposite. What they did was they set up cameras at every single intersection, and they're looking at your license plate. And if you have a warrant for your arrest, they haul you in right then and there because they want to make sure that none of you are in their town. So it's like, don't go through their town if you have a warrant, because they're going to stop you. And they all run. Every single time they run. No one just pulls over and takes it.
No one wants to go, dude.
And you would not be, I mean, you're talking 10 cop cars going all different directions. I mean, it's insane watching
it. That's that Dukes of Hazzard shit, though, where you guys are, man.
It's so funny. But they always they get them every single time. But I asked a random person about it that, like, I was stopping and getting, like, at the liquor store. And that's when they explained to me, they're like, no, it's the opposite. There's not a lot of crime here because of this. And I'm like,
yeah, your police force is active. Yeah.
Pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, once I realized it, I was like, you go, yelling as they were going by.
Well, some of the people that I apprehend, dude, are in there for traffic tickets and they just didn't go to court. So if you're going to run or fight me on a $1,000 bond for a traffic ticket, I mean, you're an idiot to start. So
yeah,
is what it is, man. But I also have I can't give away too many of my secrets, but I have a profile on Facebook that's a female. And every single dude out there falls for Heather. And they tell me exactly where they are and when they'll be there. And when they go to meet Heather, Dano shows up in his bulletproof vest and like, hey, man, how's it going?
Now that you say that, I'm pretty sure I got an invite from a Heather recently. That was you, wasn't it?
They weren't me, man. You're clean. I looked you up.
It's funny because everybody I talk to all the time is always like, the government knows too much about us, and it always bothers them. I'm like, for what? I'm not doing anything. I have nothing to hide. Go ahead and bring it. I've done nothing.
You're entitled to your privacy, man, and I believe in all that stuff. But you break the law and you have a warrant for your arrest. I've brought people in over the phone, dude. I told them what was gonna happen if they didn't, just cooperate. And I was like, cooperating is so much easier than not cooperating.
Absolutely.
And I've met people at the police station. Like, I'll walk you in, man, let's go. So yeah, you offer the opportunity, and if they don't want it, then is what it is, man.
Yeah. Game on.
I have to stay safe, and I have to follow rules. So I'm not just some wild bounty hunter out there on the lam. I have a certain thing that I have to do. And I don't want to get sued by anybody. No thanks, man.
No, and I'd
be like Rocky. I'd be like, sue me for what?
There was a kid. There's a kid. Well, I think he's still missing on the north side of Nashville area. And Dog, the bounty hunter, came in to even try to find the kid because of it. Like, he was just like, this is ridiculous. It was such a big deal in the news that even he was like, I'm going to come try to help you guys out. He made a big deal about it.
No bullshit. The Dog lives probably about 15 minutes from where I live. He's up here in Colorado right now.
That's awesome.
I saw him at the grocery store with the pit vipers, and I saw the braids. I was like, oh shit, dude, that's the Dog. Look out.
Awesome, man. Well, I've had a great time talking to you.
Sames, dude. We should do it again sometime.
We should.
On the Dangerous podcast, eh?
Absolutely, man. Whatever you want. I'm always up to chatting away. The
sure,
one
man.
thing
And
I don't
just,
think either one of us have a problem with is talking about ourselves.
Definitely not. And I'll just say one more time, much respect to you for your legendary achievements in concrete, my man, and love your podcast, dude. And I'll be a fan for life. And looking forward to seeing you next year, Rick.
I appreciate it, man. I really do, because my
No
biggest problem is I never know who really does know or who sees it. Or, I wrote 18 articles and I got zero feedback. And they told
Right.
me that if you get zero feedback, that means you're doing good. You're only going to get negative feedback. And I'm like, that's not cool. Like, I want to know people are paying attention. So it's
Your love
it's a
language
really
is
difficult thing to know.
affirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
appreciate it, man. Well, you have a great day. Thank you for your time. And yes,
No.
we got to do this again soon.
Peace, Rick.
Thanks, man. Bye. I want to thank Epoxy Depot for sponsoring this show. Go to epoxydepotusa.com and check out all their great products, training classes, and all the things they have to offer. Follow me on all social media platforms. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for listening and have a great day.